I can't take it anymore, not anymore. No one said that this would get easy. No one said this wouldn't get hard. Brush it off and roll up your sleeves now. It's a shot in the dark till you get what you want.
All right, we're live for the reaction. We got 25 Memphis, 24 Army. Both were unranked. Colorado was up to 23, failing upward. Syracuse, big win from. Oh, that's Miami's getting in. Syracuse at 22, they're getting in. Illinois for the resume prop for the Big Ten at 21.
Undefeated team in the country. Number 20, UNLV is going to play for a spot in the playoff again.
UNLV in prime position for their championship game. If anything.
19, Missouri Tigers.
Ooh, okay. Mizzou at 19 still.
What is Missouri because of the strength of schedule and the losses that they had?
Not so much now, but that's not a big resume boost.
BYU started off hot.
BYU with the consolation spot at 18th.
Big 12 championship game. What a season they had. They were at number 18 and up a single spot. Clemson, after losing to South Carolina, dropped spot. Clemson simply win, and if they win the ACC,
Clemson at 17. Okay.
That's a great thing to do. That was Sonia Tyler from Spartanburg. We'll be happy. Win, and we are in.
Like and subscribe to all things Spike College football. Clemson in the prime spot if they win against SMU.
Good job, number 16, Iowa State. Iowa State playing for the Big 12 title. Like Clemson, winning in. No real shot at it at Lawrenceburg for Matt Campbell's Cyclones, so they'll have an opportunity against Arizona State. At number 15,
Arizona State. Love what Kenny Dillingham has done.
almost certainly could be one team from the Big 12. Whoever wins the 10, no one else goes from that conference.
He's Bo Pelini without any reservation, just pure fire. I love him.
Likely that Boise's looking at a first-round bye with the Big 12 champion starting at least 15 or 16. So something to note there.
Yeah.
That would put them in if they don't get into the top 12.
14 South Carolina. They're the first one out.
South Carolina has been hot with the North Sellers. They won late against Clemson, and there they are number 14.
Yeah, nobody more hot than South Carolina at this time of year. It's unfortunate they lost games early on, but they've now won 6 in a row. Texas A&M in that cluster, Missouri, Clemson, all those 6 ones they had, but they're sitting at 14. That's why they're not going to get it done.
So South Carolina's problem is head-to-head, most notably against Ole Miss. Ole Miss is 9-3. They beat South Carolina senseless in South Carolina's house. But both teams are sitting there at 9-3.
And while Ole Miss has an outstanding win against both Georgia and South Carolina, their strength of schedule is 31. So by some of the teams in front of them,
Bama's still in there?
Strong. Knowing that they lost to some teams that aren't in the top 25, like Kentucky and LSU, and obviously that third loss against Florida.
Interesting.
So now this is where we're at the spot of where the last team in and first team out. And at the moment,
So Miami's the first one out. Bama would be in.
This year, they came from 6th spot.
I think Miami losing 2 of the last 3 really hurt them, Georgia Tech and Syracuse. And we were really good to see where Miami was compared to Alabama.
It makes sense now.
Now Alabama's ahead of Miami, so Alabama looks like they'll be the last team that has a chance to get in.
It's interesting too, because Miami there at 10-2. Obviously, they have not been so far the committee.
Why the Big 12?
Miami now, their best win against Duke and Louisville. Neither team in the top 25. So it's
Really,
tough for Miami.
it gets dinged for the Kansas loss to Baylor in the last week.
Number 11.
Big Bama.
Expected. Now, all of these teams have proven they can lose. They've proven they can lose to mediocre.
And another thing, these are
The question becomes, what did you do well enough to
teams that aren't, other than Iowa State and Arizona State, aren't playing for, are done playing, other than the bowl.
These teams and see who we think are the better teams. That's a clear statement based on that ranking.
So this would put this. Look at it. We decipher because we're seeing these rankings when you do. That was
Boise
the
State's 10.
team in the field at the moment.
They're making a mad argument for that G5 spot, taking one of the first round buys. Wow.
They're unlikely to make it. But the reason it's important here for a couple of reasons. One, because of the buy you mentioned. And also because there's another buffer ranking line we haven't seen SMU yet.
Because it's clear that at least the committee's signaling if Iowa State upsets Arizona State, they're not going to be one of the first round buys.
Indiana. So now we have another line before we see the ponies. And Kirk Cignetti's team, strength of schedule was debated. They really had one huge game lost against Ohio State. You see the schedule settling at 65. But they did the thing that good teams do. They hammered almost every other mediocre team they play.
And we talked a lot about the strength of schedule 103, 104, 105. It wound up being 65th, which is not great, but it's somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, because it gets compiled every week, Booger. He thinks the stat is set in stone every week.
There's
SMU.
SMU has only one loss early in the season on the road against BYU.
SMU, go get your conference title, King. I'm rooting for you guys.
They're in and looking at a bye. And what we said, I would think with a couple of buffer teams between them, that they would get the last at large better one, the last at large.
I think they're in a really good spot. The only thing is, you look at who they've now beaten. Duke, Louisville, same suspects as Miami. And Miami is being held against them in the second loss situation. Would it be held against SMU? Currently not a single win against a team that is currently ranked in the top 25 ponies. But if they win this week against Clemson, that would obviously punch their ticket. No doubt about it.
It's a fair point. And so it's probably really important how SMU plays on Saturday.
Tennessee.
And number 7, Tennessee slides.
Your
up.
quiet win against Vandy was noticed. You got a bump.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. We have not seen Ohio State yet. I think that's another comparison.
I think we're about to at 6.
They may be matched up against one another, and it would. This will decide.
Either 5th or I think Ohio State or Notre Dame's the 5th seed. That's what it's got to come down to. We know the top 4.
Ohio State needs to play Tennessee at home. They have a chance to beat them.
Have you been to the mountains?
Would be surprised if it's Georgia. Right, I was right. Ohio State, yeah. Notre Dame's got to be number 5 then, and then we know the top 4.
Still 2 wins against teams that are 11-1.
Mm-hmm.
They beat Indiana, who's sitting at 9, and they beat a team that's in front of them, Penn State. So I think Ohio State, well, last week is a killer. Still appropriately ranked at 6.
Let's look at number 5.
Got to be Notre Dame. Or Georgia.
Georgia Bulldogs.
Cool.
We have a couple of top 5 matchups in conference championship games. Georgia and Texas playing for the SEC round. Number 4. The Fighting Irish of Notre Dame. Now remember, this is where we have to remember the bracketing rules. Notre Dame, no conference, as you know.
Yep.
The highest
They'll be the 5
is
if they stay at where they
So
are.
they can't get a first round bye.
Correct.
The best scenario for the Fighting Irish is
If they give mad NBC money.
We're in, and most 99% of the time, they're going to host their first round game at this spot. So Notre Dame should feel really, really good right now.
2021st, somebody's playing in
South Bend. And it's going to be cold.
And it's going to, I hope it snows too. It'll be a great fucking game. Penn State.
Penn State in Big Ten championship game benefited from Ohio State stumble against
And
Michigan.
we know
at
how it
number 2.
ends from there.
It's going to be
Texas and Ohio and Oregon.
Texas and Georgia in the SEC, and Oregon and Penn State playing for.
That's how they're ranked. Now let's see the bracket.
So now you've seen the top 20.
Is that how they're going to just fill the fucking half hour? Is just unveiling the bracket one by one? That's just dumb. Granted, I've been at work. Yeah, I figured that's how they were going to seed them like that. Makes sense. Boise State is one of the buys.
And Boise State round byes. Arizona State, the highest.
And again, SMU, go get it, son. Go get your money. Go get your bid.
Played at Penn State. Ohio State would have a home game. Notre Dame and
Ooh,
under the current scenario.
Arizona State as the fifth, as the 12 against Penn State as the 5. Ooh, ooh. Indiana and Georgia into Georgia would be kind of a buzzsaw, but the other 3 matchups are bangers. Bama, Notre Dame, or Bama at Notre Dame.
What do you think about what the committee said up to this?
Well, a couple of things that jumped out. Number one, if I were SMU, I feel really good. Regardless of what happens in the title game, I think we're going to feel really good. As far as Alabama over Miami, I think that's going to be a slippery slope as these playoffs continue to develop, because you have a team in one of the Power 4 conferences that has the least amount of losses when it comes to these 2 teams. Miami's 10-2, Alabama's 9-3. And so to put Alabama in over Miami right now, I think that's one of those things, man, we better be careful as far as that's concerned. These schedules are imbalanced.
We don't have to be careful at all. When you look at the teams that Alabama beat, when you look at the way Miami finished with the 2 out of 3 to unranked teams, then it opens that door. And once you open the door,
That's a fair point. Miami has done a fair amount of playing with their food.
and I've said this to Reese before, all these teams we're talking about, Ole Miss, Alabama,
With improbable comeback after improbable comeback with that assist from the ACC command center, late third, late fourth, early fourth quarters, you know.
That's why they're in this discussion. They wouldn't be in it if they did not.
Let me ask you, Greg, about
Had Miami finished those games convincingly, I think it would be a different story.
But at the same time, you can also look at Miami and say they've benefited from 2 really controversial replay overturns against Virginia Tech and Cal that let them win those games. How far down?
The refs' incompetence was Virginia Tech for one. He should have called it incomplete because they were all on the white to begin with.
That last spot is often about football. My question, though, about this committee is what's not changed, because it feels like in the first 3 or 4 editions of the rankings that they've given us, it's been very much, strength of schedule is important, but it's not as important as the win-loss record. That's been elevated slightly. Based on prior years, that wasn't always important. Strength of schedule was the number 1 factor, and it wasn't up until this week. And now I think they're finally recognizing that while Miami is explosive offensively, they have massive flaws defensively. And I think when you look, and that's the tough thing about the 12-team playoff, the teams that are vying for that last spot are all flawed.
Yes.
It's just who's less
I
flawed.
don't think they didn't see it, though. I think they see it, but they don't punish you until you lose. They
Right.
see these flaws. And as long as you find ways to win those games, and what you're talking about,
That's what propped up Miami to begin with. Even though they were tomato can wins, they were fourth quarter comebacks.
Let's go to Heather Dennis. She did an unbelievable job covering this for us right now. And Heather, when you and I were talking before the show, I sort of landed on the term with all of these teams, least objectionable. All of them are objectionable to some way to getting in the playoff, but the least objectionable, they say, at the moment, is Alabama. What's your reaction to what you see?
Well, I want to take a minute to.
I think it's gross compared to last week. I thought the 10 seed would be the easiest spot. It's now became a buzzsaw.
11 Alabama and 12 Miami. And we keep talking about the 12th team getting left out for that 5th highest ranked conference champion, which is absolutely correct, Arizona State. But if you have multiple conference champions ranked outside the committee's top 12, and you see down lower in the rankings where you have Clemson, you have Iowa State, you have Arizona State, you have UNLV. If you have 2 of those that still need to get into this bracket on selection day, guess who's out? Not just Miami, Alabama too. So you can have the 11th and 12th team bumped out for the 4th and 5th highest ranked conference champions. That's important to remember. The other question I have here is I'm wondering how much movement these conference championship games can make down below. Can anything else happen to help some of these bubble teams? Because you are going to have some teams that can claim a win against conference champions. So I think that's another big question.
And the other one, too,
Penn State doing what I think is the improbable of upsetting Oregon would shift things around. I don't think if Georgia mocks Texas again and they decide, I don't think there'll be much movement. If anything, most of them will flip spots.
AT&T is keeping you connected with our bracket insights. It's time to sign up for ESPN's first CFP bracket challenge. Look for a chance to win $50,000 with your family or
Oh, we are March Madnessing the CFP bracket now.
CFP challenge for the first ever CFP.
That's
bracket
cool.
game. CFP bracket for the basketball.
Sorry, this is my first time watching one of these ESPN unveils. I just usually look at it after I get off at 8.
We'll answer some questions about how the committee arrived at these conclusions.
So this is me reacting to the show. And it's going to be roughly a half hour long.
Presented by AT&T.
15 minutes left. How are we feeling about the bracket? I'll dig one up. Well,
Mercedes-Benz.
This season, share the memory with a Christmas favorite.
Legends of Evergreen Hill.
Only on the new Chick-fil-A Play app.
You're important to this work series.
Uh-oh, there's Sam safe today.
It's really good.
Yeah, what better way to sandwich in some together time with the whole family? Watch the Legends of Evergreen Hills together on the new Chick-fil-A Play app. Real guests paid for their testimonials.
Remember to like and subscribe to the Spike College Football. We'll go win live Thursday. The conference championship preview.
Guess I just donated my part of science.
Looks like you need a break. The General gives you one with flexible payment options.
Look, a chemical reaction.
Quick question. Does that thing have a coffee button? For a great low rate, go with the General.
Again, Dad.
So how are we feeling? This is the bracket. Again, love the Arizona State Penn State matchup. Love it. Love that matchup. You just got love for this one. Tennessee, Ohio State. Remember the 5 through 8 seeds host playoff games. Alabama goes to touchdown Jesus at Notre Dame. Indiana goes to get a new buzzsaw against Georgia. But that's the other thing that's going to bum me out. Whoever faces Georgia and wins, we get the SEC championship again for a third time? It is hard because I've done enough CFP dynasties. When both teams are good, it's hard to beat a team twice one season. It's hard. Stupid difficult.
Student activities back in the game, and we're celebrating students all college football season. And it's time for every fan to play their role. So grab your signs, your rally towel, your
I couldn't do it
and your vote.
twice. I lost my last two because I won the first one. I lost the next two. But lost the SEC championship, still got in that large bid. And then lost again in the playoffs because we met at a championship. Similar manner to Georgia, Texas here. Anyway.
The Big Ten with 4 teams in the current field, and with Alabama getting the last team in at the moment. FTC also with 4. You see the 3-1 bid leads, and Notre Dame is ranked 4th. Of course, the highest they can be seeded is 5th. Joining us now is Chair of the College Football Playoff Selection Committee, Ward Manuel. So, Ward, let's start with the last team in the cluster of SEC teams in Miami. What gave Alabama the edge over the rest of that group?
Maurice, good to be with you again. What it came down to is that we evaluated both teams and looked at how they rank. Obviously, we think highly of both teams. One's at 11, one's at 12. But what it really came down to is Alabama is 3-1 against current top 25 teams, and Miami is 0-1. Alabama is 6-1 against teams above 500.
Makes sense.
And Miami's 4-2. Both have had some losses that weren't what they wanted out of those games. But in the last 3 games, Miami has lost twice. And so for us, in evaluating their body of work, we felt that Alabama got the edge over Miami.
Well, the body of work is complete for Alabama, for Miami, for Ole Miss, for South Carolina. One more ranking to do. What could change? Could it change? Is it set?
Yes, it could change. It all depends on the outcome of these games. The commissioners have asked us to rank the top 25 through the conference championships, and that's what we intend to do.
Okay.
We have high regard, as I've said before, for those who are playing in those conference championships, and we will closely evaluate those games and the outcome of those games
Ooh.
to rank the top.
Ooh. Update. We'll probably also go live
I'm not talking about
Sunday.
Not talking about UNLV, Clemson knocking someone out. Among that cluster of teams, what could happen and why could anything happen to change the order?
Well, it just depends on those who are playing in their conference championships, how
Those
the
teams are
outcome of
playing in
those
the
games
conference
is.
championships. You see what I'm saying? No, those
Well-
teams we're talking about are playing.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yes. So if those who are not playing, we will not adjust those teams because they don't have another data point, obviously. But in terms of those who are playing, how they'll move, if they'll move at all. If you remember 2 years ago, TCU lost in their conference championship game and didn't move. They stayed at 3. So we could do that, or we could adjust depending on the outcomes of the game.
Okay, so I want to make sure, and I want to give you a chance to clarify to make sure that we're on the same page here. So absent one of the lower ranked teams, Clemson, UNLV, stealing a bid, as it were, then nothing would change that would move Miami, Ole Miss, South Carolina in a different order or ahead of Alabama.
Any team that is not playing right now, we don't have a data point to rearrange where we have those teams ranked. And so that is set in terms of how we see them going into the final week of championship week. There's nothing that's going to change, Reese, for us to evaluate them any differently than we have now. Those teams who are not playing cannot be adjusted in terms of where they are compared to other teams that are not playing.
Right.
The championship teams, we will evaluate that data point to determine if there needs to be any movement.
Essentially, those sets of data points turn into a data cluster, and the data cluster will move.
On Saturday for sure. Ward, always a pleasure. Look forward to talking with you on Sunday after the rankings are official and complete. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Reese. Good to be with you.
And Ward Manuel, Chair of the College Football Playoff Selection Committee, and also the Athletic Director at Michigan. Just over 4 minutes. SEC, ACC Challenge, Syracuse and Tennessee.
Cool.
Jazz Lanier from the Big Orange against the Orange. He'll tip off at 7:30 Eastern Time.
You're watching college football
Okay.
25.
We got a lay of the land and pretty good idea of how they're going to see things. Eventually, if UNLV or Iowa State play bid spoiler, there ain't going to be a ton of change.
Hot, juicy, smoky, flame-proof, and made your way. Come experience the flame-proof difference with 2 originals for just $5.
He loves that baby.
Because if they steal those bids, it'll essentially knock out Miami and Bama.
I was
Both
thinking
teams
50
work.
from each.
Would make sense.
I got AT&T's bundle of 3.
Hey.
Touches for me. Much for you.
Get iPhone 16 Pro Max plus iPhone and Apple Watch for 99 cents per month each and save them $1,700.
We'll go live Thursday. Again, championship preview.
They can save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first.
And then
Who's ready for my famous chart?
Quick another live on Sunday for the
Bringing food to a tailgate.
final playoff reveal. The goal is to do all these again.
Yeah,
Next
checking
year.
first is smart. So
But
check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds.
anyway,
You're in good hands with Allstate.
let's see if they have any parting words. And no gripes about the bracket. I think the process has sorted itself out with not sizable deliberation, but it brings up the gaping discrepancy of strength of schedule. And I think that consistently getting top 25 rated matchups at the time.
Why? Because that's how it should be done. Hot, juicy, smoky, flame-through.
I think they need to be paired with how a schedule is set pre and post season.
It's Christmas in 3 weeks. Just look after them until
Oh,
like
fuck. Wow.
Hey, dudes. Jump the mic off.
But where's your gummy? Where's your gummy?
In the middle of the pond.